Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are on the planet. I'm Tom Palmer with Atlas Network. Welcome to this special edition of Freedom Worldwide, and specifically welcome to Atlas Network's Class of 2025 Smart Bets Virtual Pitch Competition. During today's webinar, we'll hear from 10 outstanding Atlas Network partners who've gone above and beyond in their mission to advance liberty. As a result of their excellence, they've been selected to participate in the 2025 class of our Smart Bets program, which offers them unique opportunities to increase their effectiveness of their work even more. And today, each of them will deliver a brief pitch for why their organization should be among the 3 to advance and compete on stage at Liberty Forum and Freedom Dinner in November for a grand prize, an investment of $50,000 in additional support. Later in the competition, you'll have the opportunity to decide for yourself and submit your vote, which is what will determine who those 3 finalists will be. Now, after a tranche of 5 pitches, each of our contestants will answer a key question that was prepared by a panel of experts. And if you wish to share your comments or questions in the Q&A box, look at the bottom of your screen. They'll be saved and shared with all of the contestants. So without further ado, let's hear from our first 5 contestants.
First up, from the European Union capital of Brussels, Belgium, Epicenter.
Imagine DC with thousands of powerful politicians regulating everything left, right, and center. Well, it shouldn't be hard because it's your daily reality. But now imagine if the American freedom movement only focused on California or Texas, and no one attempted to tackle the threats to liberty posed by the federal government. This was the case in Brussels, the capital of the European Union, before Epicenter came on the scene 10 years ago. Since then, our network unites the most influential think tanks across Europe and elevates their expertise from the domestic onto the continental level. All 12 of us speak with one voice in Brussels, united by the same determination to make the EU a freer market for all. Addressing Europe-wide challenges simultaneously as a group helps us to shape the pan-European policy agenda much more effectively. How effectively? Well, let's talk some numbers. Last year alone, we reached over half of all EU citizens. That's 250 million people. We have been featured in over 1,000 newspapers, TV and radio stations, reaching 180 million people in over 20 countries. But it's not only legacy media where we're big. Our social media campaigns have reached over 70 million people and over 1.5 million directly engaged with our content. And that's all done by having 12 member think tanks but only 2 full-time staff members coordinating the network. Impressive, right? Epicenter went through a meteoric rise in our impact over the last few years. But we have kept our coordinating team small so we can channel the resources to our member think tanks and build up the capacity for our pan-European projects. But now we have reached our ceiling, and in order to enable our members to work on more joint ventures, we need your help to expand our coordinating capacity. After the recent EU elections, 2/3 of the parliamentarians are new. With our decade-long track record and the outstanding brand recognition of our members, this is the moment to seize for European free marketeers. We are ready with a 2-year plan featuring 15 major pan-European projects that include a bootcamp for new parliamentary staffers, major campaigns to promote wealth creation, and concrete ideas on how to reduce trade barriers and enhance economic growth in the EU's single market. Epicenter and our member think tanks are doing the crucial work to fight for classical liberal values across Europe. We ask you to help us scale our programs to the next level so we are able to meet the challenges thrown at us. Every $5,000 donated to Epicenter enables our coordinating team to accept matching grants of $30,000 each towards the projects that actually deliver the excellent results that you have seen over the last few years. So, are you in and ready to use Brussels and transform the whole of Europe with free market thoughts?
Next, from Brazil, ILISP, Instituto Liberal de São Paulo.
According to the Pew Research Center, Brazil is one of the top 10 countries from which unauthorized immigrants come to US. And one of the reasons is the lack of freedom and opportunities. Imagine that you work for years to grow your company and you have to see everything taken away from you in a moment. This is what happened with João da Quejeira. João was a cheesemaker from Edealina, Goiás, who saw all his $8,000 production of cheese taken away from him because of bureaucracy. Desperate why the inspectors were loading his products to a truck, João decided to jump into a cistern and take his own life, only because he didn't have a piece of paper. I'm Marcelo Faria, CEO and founder of ILISP, Instituto Liberal de São Paulo, and to fight for poor entrepreneurs like João, we created the Freedom to Work project that advocates the implementation of the economic freedom law in all 27 states and 5,500 cities of Brazil. It allows entrepreneurs that took up to 10 years to open a company in Brazil to open it in 10 minutes online without any need of bureaucracy. Our advocacy and media efforts helped approve the law or update the law in 6 states and more than 200 cities, benefiting 95 million Brazilians with more freedom to work. The cities that have embraced the law saw an average 89% increase in the number of companies open and a 40% increase in the number of job opportunities open. To help the poor's lives even more, we created a second project. Imagine if you couldn't order products from Amazon, you couldn't order food from Uber, or worse, if you couldn't call an ambulance because you don't have an address. This is what happens with 16 million people, extremely poor people in Brazil, that don't have an address to put on a resume to get a job opportunity, and they are even not in the map. They really do not exist in a map. But with your help, we can change that. Our plan is to give 200,000 people living in the second biggest slum in São Paulo a digital address. They will be able to get more job opportunities, to order food or products to their homes, and to get more human dignity. With your help, we can increase the freedom to work to 150 million Brazilian people and to make the zip code for all come true to 200,000 poor people living in the slum in Brazil. Please support us now. Thank you.
From the United States Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, CRECE, Centro para Renovación Económica, Crecimiento y Excelencia.
Big government does not work. Just ask the 3.1 million US citizens in Puerto Rico. In 10 years, unbridled and irresponsible spending has led to government bankruptcy, choking investment and growth. Hurricanes and earthquakes uncovered the frail state of our public infrastructure, leaving residents without essential services for months. COVID-19 measures provoked the closing of thousands of businesses, an alarming loss of learning, and high inflation. With the highest sales tax in the United States, individuals in the U.S. territory carry the biggest burden. Getting a construction permit takes 165 days. More than half of our population is not working, and 75% of youth depend on federal welfare programs. Puerto Rico faces a demographic crisis. More than 600,000, mostly young adults, have left their loved ones behind to move stateside for opportunities. So how do we create conditions for individuals to freely pursue their dreams and build their lives in Puerto Rico? CRECE designed the study to understand people's views of their prospects for success on the island. We learned that individuals no longer believe that big government can solve their problems or lift them out of poverty. The findings have shaken the political landscape as people reject populist policies and demand more freedom and less government. CRECE will seize this momentum, advocate and influence policymaking through Prospera. The two-year initiative will engage and generate support to advance policy reform in three critical areas: bureaucracy, taxation, and innovation. Our goal: to unleash entrepreneurship by cutting red tape, reducing the tax burden, and fostering quality education. As the oldest free market think tank in Puerto Rico, we can bring a diversity of voices to participate in a solutions-focused conversation. Our leverage: membership in a multi-sector alliance comprising nearly 500 entities, which provide access to key stakeholders. Our grassroots work with over 10,000 individuals has generated various collaborative agreements with government and private sector to cultivate free markets. We have even earned a pivotal role in the Fiscal Board's roundtable to develop growth strategies for Puerto Rico. Through Prospera, people, not the government, will chart a new path for the 3.1 million Americans to flourish. Join us.
Here's our next Smart Bets contestant from Ghana, ASEE, Africa Center for Entrepreneurship and Youth Empowerment.
Africa is poor because she is not free. These are the words of the great African free market economist, Dr. George Aite, who came from my home country, Ghana. Well, there's something more worrying about my home country, Ghana, a West African country with a population of about 34 million. Like many African nationalist heroes, Ghana's first president and Prime Minister Kwame Nkrumah practiced socialism for 9 years until his overthrow in 1966. There are remnants of this embedded in their governance and economic structure. Government institutions remain overly extractive, and the culture of free enterprise and free trade gets undermined by more state controls, bureaucracies, and red tape. There are fewer free market policy dialogues backed by data. To free Ghana, there is the need for necessary reforms. At ASEE, we focus on entrepreneurial freedom because it is a good indicator and reflector of the economic situation in the country. After working with more than 6,400 entrepreneurs through the Regional Entrepreneurship Freedom Index, I have learned that majority of the businesses in Ghana fail due to unfavorable entrepreneurial environments. The REF Index is an in-country study that seeks to evaluate and rank all 16 regions in Ghana according to 14 indices affecting entrepreneurship with recommendations to improve the least region scores. These policy recommendations are tailored to address the unique challenges and opportunities within each region's entrepreneurial landscape, fostering a more conducive environment for entrepreneurial success and economic growth. In 2021, our Regional Entrepreneurship Freedom Index report revealed that out of the 16 regions, 1 region fell in the moderately free category, 3 in the mostly unfree, and 12 in the repressed category. In 2024, 1 remains in moderately free, 6 in mostly unfree, and 9 in the repressed category. With the 2021 edition of the REF Index, most of our policy recommendations were adopted, including the privatization of state-owned enterprises. With opportunities from the Smart Birds program, our goals include ensuring that every year 70% of our policy recommendations for at least the lowest ranked regions are adopted through decentralized policy dialogues at the regional level. We hope to kick against 5 authoritarian policies that could spring up by developing a market-like mechanism that can generate feedback, crowdsource ideas for reform, and create incentives for improving Ghana's entrepreneurial policy performance. With all these engagements, we anticipate 10 live interviews and 1 million views per interview. Additionally, we will be able to champion our mission, keep the momentum of our existing projects, and pilot a new idea, ASEE Club 100. There's a business community of 100 promising small and medium enterprises identified through the REF Index, offering them technical assistance to make them impact-driven, investment-ready, profitable, and competitive enough to trade on the continental and global stage. If Ghana, which is the star of Africa, gets it right, the rest of Africa will follow. Thank you.
And now, from India, Center for Public Policy Research.
Transportation is a major challenge in rural India. Restricted, limited, and unorganized transport connectivity gravely restricts villagers from accessing vital economic and livelihood opportunities. About 60% of India's nearly 1.3 billion people live on less than $3 a day, the World Bank's median poverty line. India's rural population is around 65% of the total population. India invests 1.7% of its GDP in public transport, but there is still a significant gap in rural areas. India has made significant strides towards improving road infrastructure, connecting over 650,000 villages in the last 2 decades. Despite this progress, there remains a glaring absence of efficient public transport options in rural areas. According to national standards, India necessitates a fleet of 363,000 buses to adequately serve its rural areas, based on a benchmark of 40 buses per 100,000 population. However, current reports from state transport undertakings indicate that only 96,000 buses are allocated for rural services, highlighting a significant shortfall of approximately 75% of the required capacity. Unorganized shared mobility, particularly intermediate paratransit, presents a cost-effective, environmentally friendly and convenient solution to bridge transportation gaps in rural India. These informal services often provide frequent shuttle services along popular routes where the demand is high. Although they fill the last mile or transport connectivity gap, they are often not recognized under the Motor Vehicles Act of India, thereby compromising on safety standards and permit system. Advocating for policy reform and legalizing shared mobility will not only empower local entrepreneurs to meet the vast transportation demands, but also generate significant employment opportunities in rural areas. Furthermore, formalizing the sector will incentivize the manufacturing industry to produce more vehicles tailored for rural roads, driving job creation and encouraging investment in R&D to enhance vehicle quality and safety. By pushing for regulatory frameworks that empower rural entrepreneurs and enhance access to transportation services, CPPR aims to empower local communities and bridge the transportation gap in rural India.
The CPPR advocates for statewide reforms which will legalize and liberalize shared mobility, which could definitely improve their living standards and per capita income.
A more widespread advocacy action is needed to fully integrate at least a substantial percentage of the over 900 million people, which is 11.1% of global population, a significant portion of humanity, as it is essential to address their needs, convenience, and well-being.
Well, if you liked what you just saw, that's just the beginning. We'll have another set of pitches in just a few minutes, but first we'll pose questions for the contestants whose pitches you just saw. Now remember, Atlas Network's ongoing mission to support nearly 600 independent partner organizations like these in 104 countries relies on voluntary support from individuals such as you. If you'd like to join the rank of the freedom champions who help to advance individual liberty and economic freedom and prosperity around the globe, just visit the link in the chat window. You can go to it now, and if you donate $25 or more, we'll even send you a copy of our magazine, Freedom's Champion, to connect you to the people and groups who work every day to build a freer and more prosperous and more peaceful world. Well, let's start up with our first question. The first contestant, the first one to offer a pitch, Epicenter, based in Brussels in Europe. Epicenter has had a remarkable string of successes in leveraging and coordinating the work of a dozen European liberal think tanks to address European Union-wide issues. So the question is, with additional support and the matching grants that you mentioned, where do you expect to increase the capacity of your team? What's the greatest point of leverage? Is it increasing the numbers of the team, or adding expertise, or investing in the capacities of the network members, or something else?
Thank you so much, Tom. What an honor to be in this fantastic group. When it comes to our future projects, we are heavily reliant on the fantastic experts of our member think tanks. So imagine the dozen think tanks that are currently Epicenter members. We have almost 150 people as staff members across the network. But all these experts are only coordinated by two of us, Jacob and myself. So when it comes to pan-European EU-related issues, we have so many ideas in the pipeline, so many pitches from our member think tanks that are valuable, fantastic projects, where we also think we could have the funding and the sponsorship from our generous donors. But at the moment, we don't have the capacity to coordinate all of these projects. So if the generous funding through these Smart Bets competition comes through, then we would be able to add an additional full-time staff member who would have two major roles. One would be to continue to coordinate these pan-European projects to essentially help the researchers meet on a weekly basis, help the communications experts talk to one another and make sure that we get the most impact out of our projects, but also to be based in Brussels. We have had European Parliament elections in Brussels. 2/3 of the European Parliament is now new. So it's essential that we build much, much closer relations with the policymakers in Brussels. So if the funding does come through, we would be able to hire a person in Brussels who would very much focus on local outreach, build these relations, and have a more interpersonal connection with all the policymakers, get all of our members and their researchers more often to Brussels, to European parliamentary hearings, to in-person meetings with key policymakers. So his role or her role would be very much twofold, both to coordinate the network, but also be the main outreach person in the Brussels bubble.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question goes to Marcelo from the Liberal Institute of Sao Paulo in Brazil. You've done so much to create opportunity for Brazilians with the economic freedom law. Now, Brazil has 219 million people, last time I checked. You've extended it so far to 95 million people. So I imagine that the easier ones, the lower hanging fruit, were already achieved first. What additional means or strategies do you propose to reach the more difficult states and the thousands of municipalities with the economic freedom law? And as a quick follow-up, can the digital address for the residents of favelas in Brazil who don't have physical addresses, can that be replicated all across the nation?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for the question. Hi, everybody. The first question, yes, we did get results with some low-hanging fruits, but we did get some results from unexpected results from harder states, like the states in the northeast of Brazil. Normally the ones that are most dependent on the state, so the governors and the mayors, sometimes they really don't think about improving economic freedom because their populations that dependent on the state. But even though with that, we did get some great results in the Northeast. It's the hardest part of Brazil to advance economic freedom. And now we became a kind of source of information about economic freedom law in Brazil. So people consult us about how they can improve their law in their cities or approve the law, because most of the cities still don't have the law. And the city level, we have the law at the federal level. So it's all about marketing. We do have a team, actually a sales team. We sell the idea that economic is good for the people, it's good for generating more jobs, to creating more opportunities. And like you said, we did get some great results, and we are working to get the law approved in all cities and all states in the next 2 years. And in 2 years, we'll have the general elections in Brazil. So the governors will be very interested in advancing economic freedom and thinking about ways of getting more votes, because we know politicians are all about the votes. So that's how we have been dealing with the economic freedom law. We do have the know-how to advance it in all the country in Brazil. About the zip codes, it's a tough project because we deal with different partners. We have to deal with Google, which is the owner of the technology. It's one of the partners. We have to deal with the local partners. We have to deal with some very hard places to deal with because of criminality and problems with the state. But we do have the methodology. We've developed a new methodology with Google to do that in a pilot. We start with 5,000 people, so we have more knowledge about how to do that in person, because we need people there on the field dealing with the codes and getting house by house to see if the code is right or not. And with the pilot, we will have all the operational knowledge to identify favelas in Brazil. And we have more than 11,000 favelas in Brazil, so it's a lot of people that we can support and improve their lives with this project.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. And our next pitch was from Crece in Puerto Rico. Terry, you're known for very serious programs to create opportunities for advancement and widespread prosperity, working with young people and others to get them into enterprise. Now, the question is, when you advance proposals in the three areas that you've chosen, do you focus on path-breaking studies, expert legislative testimony, public pressure campaigns, or some other means to see that prosperity-enhancing measures are actually enacted?
Yes, hello. Hi, everyone. I think our main goal is to place public pressure on policymakers to push ahead with policy reforms in those three areas. And we can do that in a number of ways, but we already have laid a very sound foundation at the grassroots level of people who have, through our programs, understood the value of less bureaucracy, of better quality education, entrepreneurship education, for example, and also of lower taxes to unleash financial freedom for people to be able to take risks and make their dreams come true. So with those groups of people who are already very much ready to become more actively engaged in advocating, we also, through our partnerships, have access to key stakeholders from all sectors of our of society, from academia, public government, private sector, and all those groups, nonprofits, who will be willing to sit down and essentially craft a set of principles that will guide policy reform. And this is very important because we don't want the policy reform to be subject to political changes throughout the years. We want the principles behind the policy reform to set up stable advancement in those areas.
Thank you very much, Terry. And now turning to Ghana and ASEA, Emmanuel, your regional entrepreneurial freedom index is a very clear and powerful example of the power of measurement and indices to drive evidence-based policy recommendations. Do you have a means of publicly recognizing improvements and providing a positive spotlight to those regions and those regional policy innovators who improve the most?
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Yes, we do. Currently, we are leveraging on various media outlets to do that. We launched the 2024 edition quite recently. And so far, we've been able to garner more than 40 plus media mentions. At the moment, there are lots of, so when you pick the reports, we have recommendations at the national level, and then we also have recommendations at the regional level. The reason is that you realize there are certain changes that can only be made at the national level. For example, the issuance of business certificates can only be done at the Office of the Registrar of Companies. And if anything at all, if it has to be done at a regional level, they still need that approval from the national head office. So in that sense, we have the recommendations at both the national and then the regional level. Now, the good thing about this year's report is that the stakeholder engagement has been massive. For us, I mean, it comes to us not so much of a surprise because we know that we have put in the effort. But this time around, the institutions have been the ones also inviting us to come and make the presentation. So let me give examples here. We have been at the UK High Commission to present the reports. We also received an invitation from the Ministry of Trade and Industry to also present our findings to them. Currently, we are expecting to visit the Canadian Embassy to make a presentation. The Office of the Vice President in Ghana has directed us to an institution in Ghana called the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program to discuss the findings of the report with them as well. There is also the World Bank that have also asked for a meeting that was scheduled this October. So quite a number of institutions have also reached out to us. And we believe that with all these efforts, we'll be able to put pressure on government to do the needful. We are also still partnering with institutions at the regional level, mostly partnering with hubs because they have a certain form of leverage at the regional level. These business hubs, we are working with them to also get stakeholders at the regional level to push for the reforms at the regional level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I'd like to turn then to the Center for Public Policy Research in India. So Danu, CPPR has done so much to enable people to enter the market, to realize opportunities, to improve their lives, notably including opening labor markets for women to participate and to earn livelihoods. The question here is, what are the main components of the advocacy actions that you envision to legalize shared mobility for rural people in India?
Thanks, Tom, and hi to everyone. CPP has been advocating for improvement of rural connectivity for last many years. And our understanding is that in India, being a federal state, federal system, we have different types of motor vehicle acts operating at different state levels. And each motor vehicle act actually influences the legalization part of this shared mobility. And shared mobility in India is not legalized. Mostly it is informal in nature. 100,000s of autos, these three-wheelers are available. It's not only about three-wheelers. Mostly people use vans, buses, minibuses, microbuses, then NMTs, non-motorized vehicles, but they are not legalized by the state. So as we already mentioned in our video, we have got around 900 million people living in the rural areas. And Indian government in the last 2 decades have heavily invested around 3 lakh trillion rupees, Indian rupees, for the road infrastructure. So hardware is ready, but software is not there. Software is all about legalizing and liberalizing the sector because state believes that it is the customary duty of the state to provide transport system. But unfortunately, state doesn't have the capacity, state doesn't have the efficiency, state is not effective in providing these transport services. So our advocacy plan is to engage with the rural communities in the select states. We actually start with the 5 states in India. India being so populous, we are selecting 5 states and we engage with the select rural areas, rural communities, which are more reform oriented, who are ready to buy this idea of legalizing. Then we have to engage with the state governments, the provincial governments, because they are responsible for legalizing this transport system. And we should also push for improving opening up of the system so that individuals in the rural areas can own, operate, manage its operations. Communities can own and operate these operations. Even the local governments can operate on the system. So the idea is to create awareness among the public, engage the bureaucracy, political leadership, social media campaigns, write opinion pieces, use social media platforms effectively with the videos that we already screened. Similar videos should be out there, and also deal with engage the government of India at various levels. This is the advocacy plan.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all. And now for a round of 5 more pitches from 5 contestants.
From Bosnia and Herzegovina, Liberal Forum.
Hello, my name is Daniel Hadžović. I'm the president of the Liberal Forum, and this is Sarajevo. It's called the Jerusalem of Europe. This is the only place in this part of the world where in 100 meters you can see mosques, synagogues, Catholic and Orthodox churches standing harmoniously next to each other. But things have not always been great for Bosnia. In the 1990s, after the fall of communism and the breakup of Yugoslavia, ethnic groups living here fought a bloody war that claimed over 100,000 lives and resulted with genocide in Srebrenica, the first on the European soil since World War II. Bosnia continues to face the great challenge of building a peaceful and harmonious society after the war. Unfortunately, all these years, our country has been dominated by forces that base their politics on ethnic division and nationalism. Economically speaking, they are all socialists, as Mises would say. They want to maintain a system that implies big government, massive spending, and a private sector that is controlled by the politicians in power. We, at Liberal Forum, want to change that. We implemented numerous projects such as Economic Olympics, the School of Liberalism, or Sarajevo Debates, a popular talk show in which we promote liberal values. We fight for the implementation of liberal reforms. For example, in 2021, the new law on crafts prepared by our team was adopted, which made it a lot easier for small business to operate. As a result of this achievement, the Atlas Network chose us as one of the finalists for the 2022 Europe Liberty Award. But we want more. Through our Freedom Hub project, we will create 50 policies for a better and freer Bosnia and Herzegovina. These policies will be rooted in classic liberal values. We want to see the reduction of income taxes, shorten the company registration procedures to 7 days, speed up the process of obtaining construction permits, see the digitalization of the government, but we also want to encourage social reforms, such as introducing the possibility of registering same-sex partnership and the decriminalization of recreational drugs. Our team of eminent experts consisting of economists, lawyers, political scientists and media experts will draft our policy document. We will work with political parties and elected representatives to put these policies into practice. We expect to see at least 20 reforms implemented by the beginning of 2027. Over the years, Atlas Network has helped make our vision a reality, and you, as donors, can provide additional support and help us in our mission to make our country more free, rich, harmonious, and prosperous through our Freedom Hub.
Next, from Canada, MEI.
Friends, the future of Canada matters for our movement, both objectively and subjectively. Canada is a steadfast ally of the US and its second largest trading partner, as well as a member of the G7. Subjectively, it stands as a beacon of freedom and tolerance with a large immigration which has been successfully integrated historically. However, the past decade has seen gross mismanagement by Canada's federal government, resulting in a 100% increase in its public debt between March 2014 and March 2024. The runaway printing of money that fueled much of the increased government spending spurred inflation and ultimately created hardship in the daily lives of average Canadians. Despite these challenges, there's hope. For one, the leader of the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, has deep-seated and long-standing free market beliefs. For instance, His plan includes tax cuts and a massive reduction of red tape. Recent polls suggest his party would win by a landslide if elections were held today. Yet, history shows that even well-meaning governments often struggle to enact meaningful free market reforms once they are in power. And so that's why our Liberty and Leadership program could make a real and positive difference. It aims to create a pipeline of competent political staffers and other young civic leaders well-versed in classical liberal ideas, especially in practical contexts. Experience shows that political staffers have an outsized influence in the daily operations of the governing political party. Furthermore, many of these staffers often become themselves senior political figures down the road. MEI has the network and the expertise it takes to successfully deliver this program that will include seminars, paid internships, and mentorships. So much so that the Atlas Network even recruited us as one of its 5 regional training centers several years ago. Winning this Smart Bets competition would provide us with a level of prestige that could then in turn help us sell this program even more effectively to the relevant stakeholders, including in the context of the staffings of the Canadian political parties open to classical liberalism. Thank you, and hail to liberty.
Next up, from Turkey, Digital Media and Research Group.
This is not a grocery list. This is what failure actually looks like. Today, ground beef or chicken wings cost twice as much in Istanbul than in London. 2 years ago, Turkey conducted the most expensive economic experiment in history. The government deliberately kept the interest rates below inflation for 22 months straight. This was a populist move to win the elections. It gave us one of the highest inflation rates in the world. 6 times higher than Russia, which is facing a worldwide embargo. Even the British tourists are complaining about it. Imagine, this is Europe's wealthiest people, and Turkish youth was hit the hardest. They can't even afford basic necessities, let alone traveling or enjoying their youth. Their main question is, what future do we have? But why? Turkey's lack of checks and balances on the president's arbitrary decisions is one primary factor, but a lack of digital and economic literacy is really fueling the problem. Erdogan successfully put the blame for the lira's devaluation on foreign high-interest rate lobbies, and Turks responded to this by burning their dollars, and he won the elections by a close margin. That is why we created Quest, Europe's first digitally native classical liberal video studio, to counter this trend and to cover policy issues in a way young people actually consume information today. Designed to make the ideas of liberty, free markets, individual rights, limited government, all relevant and accessible to the rising generation of Turkey. Before the elections, we covered everything from monetary policy to housing, to educate the Turkish youth on how government policy impacts their lives by using The Simpsons, Legos, or a lot of nice graphic storytelling. We even used cat videos to explain the internet crackdowns in a simple and punchy way. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough. But we saw that it works. Our policy videos reached millions of people, overwhelmingly the youth. We even reached young women, who are the hardest demographic group to reach with our topics. And we are recognized. Some of Turkey's most popular celebrities reposted and reshared our content, putting their name behind our editorial views. We even trained classical liberal journalists, policymakers, or think tankers on punchy short-form video ideas in 6 different European countries. Now we have the proof of concept, and our country is at a tipping point. The current economic crisis and the regime's failure is our chance to educate the next generation into our ideas. With your investment, we want to turn Quest fully self-sustainable with a firm sponsorship and subscriber base. We must make the building of a free society once more an intellectual adventure for Turkish youth. This is not a charity. This is about reclaiming a future that was stolen. It will be a lasting investment into the contemporary storytelling of our ideas. Invest in us, invest in Turkey's future.
From Chile, Fundación Piensa.
Have you ever felt that nostalgic sensation that old times were better? In Chile, near the end of the world, we're feeling this very strongly. Over the last 30 years, we built our path to success with perseverance, based on a stable country, clear rules, openness to the world, and a competitive economy. This helped to reduce poverty from 68% to 8%. Chile became a beacon of freedom in Latin America. But something happened. 10 years ago, Chileans voted for a political coalition that included the Communist Party. The new government started a series of reforms marked by an important increase in public spending and doubling of the tax rate.
Y modernizar nuestro sistema impositivo para que quienes ganan más paguen más impuestos.
The consequences of slowing down the economy quickly became apparent, with job destruction and a sharp rise in the cost of living for millions of Chileans. And it gets worse. Some politicians began claiming that Chile's problem were rooted in its constitution and economic model. Things reached a boiling point in year 2019 when massive protests and extreme street violence led to the destruction of the country's main urban centers. Far-left politicians exploited this situation and successfully managed to open a constitutional reform process. We have already witnessed similar reforming efforts in other parts of Latin America. In fact, this is how the Chavista regime was installed in Venezuela, and to this day, we continue to see the consequences on the lives and freedom of millions of Venezuelans. When all seemed lost, the new constitution was rejected by 62% of Chileans. In Piensa, we raised awareness through hundreds of meetings with thousands of citizens discussing the dangers and consequences of approving this text. The ideas do not defend themselves. We need your help to implement our Understand, Prepare, Influence UPI strategy. First, we shift our focus to directly engage with citizens and organizations listening face-to-face to understand their main concerns. Next, we will prepare by developing studies and policies to get back on track while also training future responsible leaders through our School of Public Policy. Finally, we will influence decision makers and shape next year's presidential and local programs, ensuring that populist threats are kept out of the public discussion. Join us in securing Chile's future as a free and prosperous nation. Together, we can turn the tide and bring back the values that once made us a shining example in Latin America. Will you join us?
And now, our final Smart Bets contestant from the United States, FEE, Foundation for Economic Education.
The Foundation for Economic Education was once the entry point to the freedom movement. For nearly 80 years, FEE's renowned seminars and publications such as The Freeman have fostered a pipeline for young people to engage with and embrace the philosophy of freedom. However, in recent years, like many organizations in our movement, FEE has shifted its focus towards the online space, prioritizing metrics like views, shares, and likes. While this has broadened our reach, with over 34,000 student engagements throughout the US and more than 30 million online impressions in 2023 alone, it has also left our pipeline fragmented. The pipeline I'm referring to is the journey young people take toward understanding and committing to the freedom philosophy. The same pipeline that led 4 FEE alumni to be featured in the New York Times as one of the 30 most influential voices for young conservatives. Our goal now is not only to continue expanding our reach, but also offering young people deeper, more meaningful learning experiences. The FEE++ strategy is to integrate our top-of-funnel activities like videos, social media, and newsletters with life-changing educational offerings, such as the seminars and an updated Freeman. What is the value proposition to our audience? Young people with casual interests sparked by online content will journey through substantive, life-changing learning experiences. The impact will be clear. Individuals who engage with FEE's content will emerge with a stronger, more actionable understanding of the freedom philosophy and be better prepared to advocate for these principles in the real world. With your support, FEE will achieve these objectives through 3 key initiatives: a unified and compelling brand presence across all channels, a new advisory group of thought leaders who guide us in developing innovative new products, and a new system to track and analyze conversions more effectively. Why should we invest in this online engagement pipeline strategy at FEE? Strategic growth. This is about more than just producing videos or hosting seminars. It's about offering a valuable conversion journey for future leaders who strengthen the liberty movement. Targeted impact. There's no greater return on investment than influencing young minds. Research shows that lifelong political beliefs develop most often between the ages of 14 and 24, peaking at 18. This is the audience we're aiming to reach and guide. And because we must innovate to ensure the scalability of our legacy models like seminars while enhancing our top-of-funnel activities. By leveraging new AI tools, we can help young people journey from initial engagement towards deeper learning experiences. This is our moment to redefine the impact of the liberty movement in the digital age. With your support, FEE will lead the way in building a more cohesive, effective, and impactful pipeline for freedom.
Well, thank you all. And as you watch these pitches and the responses to questions, don't forget that the core of today's competition is deciding which of these 10, which 3 will go on to compete for the $50,000 top investment prize at Liberty Forum and Freedom Dinner in November. After you've seen all 10 of the pitches and the responses, go to the link in the chat window and tell us which 3 organizations you found most convincing and compelling. Now, if you don't want to make a choice today, don't worry. Anyone signed up today will get an email with the video and another opportunity to cast your votes. You can view them all again since they are recorded. The voting will remain open until November 8th and will announce the results on stage at Liberty Forum in New York on November 20. So now let's get to the questions that were posed by our panel of experts. We'll start with a Liberal Forum in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So Daniel, Liberal Forum is a well-recognized and very strong voice for reason, as your pitch shows. Now, you projected 50 new policy recommendations, and you said you expect to see at least 20 reforms implemented by 2027. Do you have a strategy to decide which of your 50 reforms will get sufficient publicity and promotion to get to that stage?
First of all, hello to everyone, especially to you. Tom, it's a great question. Yeah, of course, we have a strategy because some of these proposals and some of these reforms we are wanting to see implemented in the Bosnian society are already in procedures. Some of them are just an idea, and some of them, we speak about them in our public, in our society, but they are not proposed yet in our institutions. So the first policies that we will try to get through the institutions and try to lobby for them to come into practice are these policies and these reforms that are some like already in procedure, are proposed by some politicians, are talked about in our society. And the good thing is that a lot of policies that would increase the level of the freedom and prosperity in our society are already proposed by some politicians or are already talked in our public by the media and etc. And we will first and foremost focus on these policies to be implemented. That will be our priority, and after that we will focus on other policies. For example, I can mention some of these policies. For example, the government of Bosnia and Herzegovina is preparing a tax reform that is in generally okay. We would make some little changes, but the plan is already in procedure. So we would have lower taxes, especially lower taxes on wages if this reform is implemented. Also, the legalization of soft drugs or cannabis in medical purposes is already in procedure in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What we want to do is first promote these policies that are already in procedure and are already talked about in our society, and after that also make attention to other policies that maybe are not so popular, but we want to see them implemented in our society.
Very good. Thank you so much.
You're
Now,
welcome.
going to Canada, to the Montreal Economic Institute, Michel, MEI has a long record of success in influencing policymakers and public opinion and leveraging investments in ideas. So do you intend for this project to be open to potential staffers from a multitude of political parties, or only one, or just a few? How do you hope to involve across the political spectrum? And how do you also hope to continue contact with graduates as they become integral to the formation of better public policy across Canada?
Yes, good day, Tom, and thank you for the Atlas Network for giving me the opportunity to be part of the Smart Bet competition, and congrats to all the other organizations that have been selected. We purposely decided for at least 2 first years of the deployment of this project to focus on either provincial political parties or federal political parties that are at least somewhat open to classical liberalism. Because the point of the program, at least for this specific program, is not so much to change the hearts and minds of people, but rather to provide intellectual ammunitions to people who are otherwise already interested in our ideas. And so it will be, in that sense, more focused, at least at the beginning, but clearly in that sense that it's not partisan, because, you know, we will reach out to several political parties. But let's say that for the first 2 years, we may not put a lot of efforts on parties that have declared publicly no interest whatsoever towards classical liberalism. Now, in terms of keeping the network, you're right, that's an important feature. And this is why it was important for us to hire someone who's a full-time staffer for that program. And that person, Kate, is very engaged in creating both virtual as well as regional meetings with our graduates to just kind of keep the spirit going. And our assessment is that if we can have a pipeline of 40 to 50 competent graduates each year, if only 1 or 2 of those would ultimately become, you know, important political figures, that would be a major win.
Okay, thank you very much, Michel. Turning now to Turkey and the Quest Media. Medeni, Quest Media is a proven leader in using research and contemporary modern technology to create innovative and informative media products that are catchy and memorable. What are the steps that will turn an investment in Quest through this project into a future of commercial sustainability?
Thank you so much, Tom, and it's a privilege to be here. I apologize, my camera just crashed. I couldn't solve it. The thing is that this is a key moment for the Turkish young generation because we've been through a decade of authoritarian populism, and our liberty movement in Turkey has been growing, but we've been missing a key part, which is the organization that turns our ideas into the pieces that basically reaches the young population. This is where we enter, and we sort of took it upon ourselves to be our Liberty Movement's R&D lab for digital content. Right now, we are basically sitting on a vast network of 60,000 followers across different social media platforms. Now we want to turn this into a voice for generations to come by building our sponsorships and paid subscription base. with an expert. We are basically planning to dedicate this resource to make Quest once and for all a voice for liberty to come, which basically impacts the younger generations, that teaches our ideas to them, and hopefully will be there and impact Turkey's future.
Thank you very much. So now turning to Chile and the work of Piensa. So Eduardo and Jose, your work at generating real debate and serious thinking about the changes that were proposed to the Constitution are really a shining example of civic engagement in a democracy. How will you integrate the phases of your UPI approach, understand, prepare, and influence? And specifically, how will you integrate the results of the understanding phase of engagement through public listening into the next two phases?
Thank you very much, Tom, and all the participants who are now present and listening all those amazing pitches. Well, by our UPI strategy, we want to start with this phase of understanding by holding and enforcing the engagement with the civil society. One of the main reasons that we have in our feedback or understanding what's happening in Chile is that we stop defending the ideas of freedom and liberty. One of the main reasons that we want to start working on this in the civil society is because of our experience by the constitutional two process. Yes, in this process, we learned that the civil society has the key to change this left movement who was developing in Chile and stop this process and developing from these ideas. That's why we first want to understand what's happening in the civil society, what's happening in the communities, what's happening in the different cities, first in our region from Valparaiso, who was actually a beacon of left ideas for this movement in Chile. That's why we want to start with this service we've been developing for the last 10 years, having the perception not just over how perceive the different, I don't know, authoritarianism and different ideas, or was the perception of life quality and political about how's doing all local leaders. After that, we are now in the phase in which we want to keep doing seminars, attendance, meetings with leaders, not just political leaders, otherwise social leaders and decision makers. That's why we want to, starting with this understanding part of this plan, then we will continue preparing because we know that the young leaders are the future for Chile. We've been developing our School of Public Policy, teaching the university and scholar leaders the main lessons about how to do good public policy based on the ideas of freedom and liberty. What we want to influence about these workshops with students is in the next step, start with influencing about these meetings, through these meetings, giving policymakers, decision makers, our reports. Here I have in my hands the last report of life quality in the region of Valparaiso, where we are showing how in the last 10 years, the life quality has decreased considerably in the region of Valparaiso. And the reasons, well, is because of bad public policies, bad decisions, and for sure,
bad ideas,
which started when we chose when the Chileans voted for this coalition that includes the Communist Party. We are now in a boiling point when we have in the next month the local elections. The next year we have presidential and parliament elections, and well, this is the boiling point where we have to keep working with students, keep working with decisions leaders, policymakers, and for sure with the civil society, with different groups, organizations, sports organizations, local organizations, which have the key to impact in the different neighbors, in the participants of the organizations, and for sure in the rest of the civil society to change the path from Chile and return, get back in this game when Chile was a beacon of freedom in Latin America.
Thank you very much. Turning then to the venerable Foundation for Economic Education, Diogo, FEE has such an illustrious history of success. It was the first point of contact for so many people who have been involved in the liberty movement for decades. And now you're preparing to address new generations who consume information and ideas in very different ways than people in my age group. Now, you've painted a picture of how to help more young people to find the pipeline and to travel through it to an engagement with the liberty philosophy. The question is, do you have a system or a program to help them to continue that journey after they leave the age cohort, as you mentioned, 18 to 24, on which you are 14 to 24, on which you're focusing?
Thank you very much, Tom. And it's a pleasure to be here with so many great organizations. Yes, as you mentioned, Tom, we have seen this pipeline that now is currently broken. The pipeline that takes especially young people through their first contact with the liberty movement into deeper engagement. And we understand that this connection between the legacy that FEE has with innovation is key to have these effects more to be long, to last for a lifetime. So we are integrating some of our offerings, such as in-person seminars, with some of our digital offerings that create new engagement. We're also reimagining some of the products, right? So if we think of FEE's seminars in the past, we're reimagining them as more of a bootcamp style. So you have more hands-on activities as well. We're reimagining the Freeman, which is a publication, a brand that is over 100 years old, as a new Substack, a digital publication, a Substack magazine. And we understand that some of these products will remain with the young generation as they grow older. The Freeman is one of these examples. It was, for many people, the first point of contact with the freedom philosophy. I was talking with Ed Crane the other day, and he was mentioning how the Freeman was what brought him to the movement. But we want that conversation to continue as well. I want to mention two things. One is the stickness test, which is a measurement for long-term retention of the information that our users consume. So this is a way for us to understand how these beliefs remain for a lifetime. We've seen research showing that lifelong beliefs are usually formed between the ages of 14 and 24. And that's one of the reasons why we're focusing on that age cohort. And the second is to also staff other organizations. So one of the things I hear from many CEOs from many other organizations, including some organizations with us here, is that it has become harder to find young, talented people to staff our organizations. Partially because some of this, partially because the pipeline is broken, right? So some of these activities are not there anymore. So one of the ways that we believe that we can engage with people for a lifetime is also with the partnership with other organizations, so they can retain that talent, and then that talent can be still be engaged with those ideas for a lifetime.
Thank you very much, Jogo, and thanks to each and every one of our pitchers today who pitched their project, and also to you, the audience, for getting invested in the cause of individual rights, economic freedom, and prosperity around the world. Of course, so don't forget to vote to choose the 3 finalists who go on to New York. And if you'd like to be involved in the next step, be among the first to find out which of the 3 organizations are chosen, and then see them pitch on stage in front of hundreds of people in a competition for the top prize. Don't miss your opportunity to join us at Liberty Forum and Freedom Dinner in New York City in November. Just click the link in the chat window to find out more, and you can register today. It's an annual gathering that holds the world's most inspiring freedom champions, and it's the best way for you to get connected with the global freedom movement and to learn how you can make a difference. Now, in addition, today's webinar has been recorded, and we'll share a link to our YouTube channel where you can watch the competition again. Don't forget that voting remains open until November 8th, so send the recording to friends who share your commitment to liberty. We'd love to see their votes as well. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, stay free.